Good day, mga kayang master, eto na ang susunod na kabanata ni Mr. Daryl Darby pero bago ang lahat pa-like and share and subscribe ang ating channel, at pindutin ang notification bell para lagi kayong updated sa lahat ng kabanata, at eto na rin ang full chapter ni Mr. Daryl Darby kaya abang-abang na lang po sa iba pang mga kabanata. Marami pong salamat. Ang asawa kong tinitingala ng lahat. Kabanata 2774. Everyone standing behind Zhang Ju was shocked to hear the accusation. Their facial expressions changed drastically. Parker is so bold. It was Empress Chang'er who suggested Zhang Ju be the leader of the 9 continents and Parker disagrees. She even called Zhang Ju unworthy of the position. They thought. Slender figure stepped forward. It was Karen. She pointed at Parker and rebuked, "How presumptuous! Who are you? How dare you slander my master?" Instantly, the surrounding Endless Sky organization disciples started clamoring. She's really bold. It was Empress Chang'er who brought up the leader of the 9 continents. By saying that, is she questioning Empress Chang'er's judgment? She's just the eldest young niece of the famed sword manor. She's way too oblivious of current affairs. She's lawless. Zhang Ju's expression turned gloomy. He was going to be the leader of the 9 continents soon, but he was being insulted by a girl in front of the heroes of the cultivation world. How could he possibly take the harsh accusation light-heartedly? However, Zhang Ju held himself together and did not show his temper. Instead, he looked at Parker with a weird smile and said, "Miss Johan, you claimed that I am not worthy to be the leader of the 9 continents. Who do you think is a good candidate?" Zhang Ju sounded conceited. Parker smiled slightly and replied without hesitation, "Elysium Gate Sect Master, Daryl." Then, Parker looked around. 3 years ago, when the Raksasa tribe came, it was Daryl who led us to resist the Raksasa army. The Elysium Gate Sect created by Daryl has been helping the weak and the underprivileged in the world of cultivators for the past few years. They've made a lot of contributions to the people. Daryl is a master of both the pen and the sword. He won first place in both tests during the New World Marriage Tournament. Only someone like him is the most qualified to sit as the leader of the 9 continents. Andy and the others nodded their heads in approval. Daryl was moved. He could not help but glance at Parker. He did not expect that she would see him in such a good light. Zhang Ju's face was extremely ugly as he seethed with anger. As expected, these people are still supporting Daryl, he thought. Suddenly, he threw his head back and laughed. "Miss Johan, you keep praising Daryl. Don't you know that 5 days ago, Daryl broke into the Holy Saint sect and sullied Empress Chang'er? After that, he caused more trouble in the North Mona Palace. Such a disobedient person would be the biggest joke if he became the leader of the 9 continents." Karen and the Endless Sky organization disciples behind Zhang Ju burst into fits of laughter. "That's not true." Parker bit her lip and refuted. News that Daryl sullied Chang'er and caused trouble in the North Mona Palace spread across the cultivation world, but Parker knew Daryl well. She knew that he would never commit such despicable acts. Quincy, who had been silent, stepped forward and looked at Zhang Ju. "Zhang Ju, you keep saying that Daryl has sullied Empress Chang'er, but do you have any evidence?" Quincy's delicate face seemed calm, but she had butterflies inside her tummy. Like Parker, Quincy did not believe that Daryl would commit an immoral act. Speaking of which, she was engaged to Daryl. She could not stand it when Zhang Ju slandered him. Evidence. Zhang Ju sneered and turned to look at Chang'er. "The Empress herself is the most powerful evidence. I tracked Daryl all the way to the North Mona Palace and saw him threatening the civil and military officials with the Empress's life." With that said, Zhang Ju winked at Chang'er. Zhang Ju completely controlled Chang'er. Without hesitation, she stepped out and confessed in a soft tone, "Yes, I was cultivating in the forbidden area at the Holy Saint sect when Daryl suddenly broke in and took me away by force. Along the way, he was being frivolous. He wanted to make me his woman. He also wanted to be the North Mona Emperor. The people who had expressed their support to Zhangju were desperate to show their righteousness. Daryl is way too despicable, he is bold. I respected him so much before, but I didn't expect him to be this kind of a person. Kabanata 2775. Yes, the Empress said it herself, so it can't be wrong. The heated comments kept coming from the crowd, leaving both Quincy and Parker feeling awkward. How could this happen? Daryl wouldn't do such a thing, they thought. Zoe whispered to Daryl, anxiously, Daryl, go up and explain yourself. How could Daryl stay so calm after Zhangju slandered him? Daryl took a deep breath and whispered, I can't show up now. Why? Zoe's beautiful face was puzzled. Daryl thought about it and slowly said, last night, I failed in my sneak attack on Zhangju, and I've exposed my whereabouts. Although he couldn't find me last night, the cunning Zhangju is deliberately talking bad about me in front of everyone just to make me show up. If I don't show up, he'll be a little cautious about his actions. Once I show up, he would have no qualms doing anything. Daryl appeared calm, but he was holding back his anger. He wanted so badly to run forward and expose Zhangju's lies. However, he gave up on that thought when Chang'er framed him too. He knew that he had to figure out how Zhangju was controlling Chang'er. Otherwise, it would be useless to try to explain himself. Zoe nodded silently. Then, Zhangju looked at Quincy with a strange smile. Princess, what do you have to say now? It's true that Daryl had committed treason. Your effort to defend someone like him is futile, so I advise you to quickly figure out what is good for you. Quincy was expressionless as she coldly replied, all right. I'll tell you my decision. You do as you please to be the leader of the 9 continents. However, the South Cloud world will not recognize you as our leader. Then, she glanced at Chang'er. I think the Empress must have been really confused to recommend someone like you to be the leader of the 9 continents. So is the famed sword manor. Parker went along with Quincy. So is the Elixir sect. At the same time, Zoe took the people from Jade sect and stood resolutely behind Quincy. Zhangju wore a gloomy look and nodded. Quincy, it doesn't matter if you don't recognize me as the leader of the 9 continents. But it's very disrespectful of you to question Empress Chang'er. If I forgive you today, how can I gain a foothold in the future? Everyone, listen to my orders. Take them down for me. Zhangju was almost roaring out wildly when he finished speaking. The people behind him urged their internal energy and surrounded Quincy and others. Quincy's pretty face flushed, feeling extremely frightened. You finally reveal your true colors. If you want to catch us, just say it, don't use Empress Chang'er as an excuse. Then, she raised her hand and held her long sword firmly. Everyone, Zhangju is ambitious and wild. Everyone should stand by me and fight for ourselves. Boss, Quincy urged. Her internal energy and her graceful figure was the first to leap into the air and charge at the opponent. Attack! Parker and Andy followed closely behind Quincy. In an instant, a fierce battle instantly broke out in the square in front of the Infinite Hall. Oh, Daryl was frightened. Zhangju was ruthless, so he had no qualms about starting a battle. Daryl thought that Zhangju would be scrupulous if he did not show up, but he did not expect that Zhangju would not mind him one bit. Zhangju started a war nonetheless. Kabanata 2776. Daryl could not waste time thinking about it and darted quickly towards Zhangju. No one noticed Daryl after he put on the makeup. Everyone thought he was just an ordinary male disciple from the Jade sect. Zhangju's attention was on Quincy, and he kept yelling, take them all down. Catch Quincy and her friends for me. I want them alive, don't spare the rest of them. Boss! Suddenly, a figure shot out, carrying the momentum of thunder. Is that Daryl? Zhangju was startled by the sudden attack, but he reacted quickly and raised his hand to greet the attack. Boom! There was a loud noise and everyone trembled. Zhangju stepped back a dozen steps, his eyes locked on Daryl. Zhangju's eyes flickered wildly. Then, he threw his head back and laughed uncontrollably. You finally showed up. I tell you what, today neither you and Quincy will ever be able to leave. Many people around were taken aback. They were surprised that Daryl, who sullied the Empress Chang'er and caused a ruckus in the North Mona Palace, would dare to show up. Both Quincy and Parker trembled. They were extremely happy and shocked at the same time. When did he get into Jade Sect? Also, what's up with the scars on his face, they wondered. Daryl did not respond but merely looked at Zhangju coldly. He knew that he could never clear his name if he tried to explain himself. The only person who could prove his innocence was Chang'er, but she was being controlled by Zhangju, so he must subdue Zhangju that very day. Zhangju did not panic even when he felt the chilliness from Daryl. He was extremely cheerful instead. Daryl, your time's up. Surrender yourself and I might show you mercy. We don't know who's going to die today. Daryl roared and raised his hands. Roar! The surrounding air quickly twisted, and then, 9 golden dragons surrounded Daryl. Attack! Daryl shouted. The dragons roared loudly as they charged towards Zhangju. Zhangju let out a cold snort when he saw the 9 golden dragons charging at him. How dare he show off in front of me with the mere technique of the ascension of the 9 dragons boss. The next second, he suddenly raised his hand and waved. A streak of golden light burst out from the sky-breaking axe and cut through the skies and the grounds, shooting forward. Boom! 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 The streak of golden light emitted by the sky-breaking axe collided with the 9 golden dragons and a violent force broke out. Then, the 9 golden dragons were instantly defeated and were turned into golden shadows that dissipated between heaven and earth. It was the sky-breaking axe. Everyone was dumbfounded and inexplicably shocked. The rumor that Zhangju had the sky-breaking axe turned out to be true. It was indeed an unrivaled grand weapon for it to be able to display such tyrannical power when Zhangju wielded it. Daryl, who was floating in the air, was sulking. Zhangju had the sky-breaking axe and his strength was extremely powerful. If he used the devil-sealed mirrors, Daryl would be no match for him. What do I do, he wondered. Daryl did not know that Zhangju had not thoroughly learned the secrets of the devil-sealed mirrors. He had already used it once the night before and the next time he would be able to use it again was at least 3 months from now. The corners of Zhangju's mouth curled up, revealing a trace of contempt. He mocked Daryl. So you sounded so self-confident. Is this all you've got, Daryl? I'll help you. Quincy yelled, Kabanata 2777. Quincy flew up in the air and fought Zhangju alongside Daryl. At the same time, Andy, Parker and Zoe also rushed towards Zhangju from another direction. The corners of Zhangju's mouth evoked a trace of disdain. A mob of unruly people. He swung the axe and confronted them. Boss! The power of the sky-breaking axe was so strong. In a blink of an eye, Quincy and the few others could not stand it and turned pale. You guys find a way to break through the siege. Don't worry about me, Daryl shouted at his friends, feeling anxious. Although Daryl might not be able to kill Zhangju in a duel, Zhangju was not enough to stop Daryl from living. However, it was not the same for Quincy and the others. Quincy beat her leap, then turned around and dived into the crowd below, trying to lead her people away from the siege. As the South Cloud World Princess, Quincy acted decisively. After fighting briefly with Zhangju, she realized that her strength would not be helpful to Daryl but instead, would make things worse for him. Whiz! At the same time, Andy, Parker and the others also withdrew from the battle. Boss! At that instance, Daryl raised his hands without hesitation. A mass of white flames jumped out from his palm and volleyed towards Zhangju. The flame grew bigger and finally formed a lotus shape. The surrounding temperature suddenly spiked. It was the white lily cold flame. 1,000 calamities. Daryl commanded coldly. Then, he slowly raised his hands. Thousand Calamities was a technique Daryl discovered when he was trapped at the bottom of a volcano 10 years ago. He had perfected the technique through the years he improved his strength. Buzz! The sky became distorted as if the aura between heaven and earth was suddenly drawn out. Everyone present turned ashen. Zhangju, go to hell! Daryl roared as he raised his hand to point a finger forward. A huge white fireball emerged in an instant and hit Zhangju. The fireball had fused with the essence of the white lily coal flame. It was a technique Daryl created based on the white lily coal flame. Daryl was puzzled why Zhangju had not used the devil-sealed mirrors, but he could not be bothered. What Zhangju screamed in shock and quickly urged his internal energy to blend into the sky-breaking axe to resist the attack. Boom! The white fireball blasted the sky-breaking axe and a terrifying burst of energy exploded. A white sea of fire instantly formed over the entire infinite hall. Blood! Zhangju spat out blood, and his body was sent flying upside down. Although he had fully comprehended the power of the sky-breaking axe, he would consume a lot of internal energy every time he used it. He was no longer able to parry off the thousand calamities Daryl fired in his weakened state. Many people below were stunned. They took a long time to recover from their shock. Did Daryl win, they wondered. Zhangju had the sky-breaking axe, yet he failed to cause any serious injuries to Daryl. Who would believe it if they had not seen it with their very own eyes at the same time? Quincy, Zoe and the others were excited. However, in the next second, they all became worried when they noticed Daryl's situation. Daryl's face was pale and he was very weak. He fought hard with Zhangju and performed the thousand calamities technique, so he had almost exhausted all his internal energy. Buzz! As the white flame in the sky gradually extinguished, the sky suddenly dimmed and then, a black mist filled the surroundings of the infinite hall. Rustling then, thousands of figures appeared from the black mist. Those figures were dressed in black uniforms and wore white bone masks. They seemed to come from hell. What's happening? Daryl, Zhangju and the others were equally stunned by the scene. Kabanata 2778. Daryl noticed that the leader was the mayor of the Rock City, who had a conflict with him before. A month ago, Daryl and Cheyenne went to the Rock City for business but were treated unfairly. Jack was arrogant and in the end, Natalie arrived at the scene and reprimanded Jack on the spot. Daryl remembered the incident vividly. Why did the mayor of the Rock City not stay in the Rock City? What's he doing here in the North Mono continent? Daryl wondered. At that time, Daryl was not aware Jade had betrayed the Raksasa tribe. As he frowned secretly, Daryl also noticed that Jack and the people he had brought were filled with an evil spirit. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Why are the Raksasa people here? They weren't invited to the Supreme Conference, were they? Although the 9 continents had made peace with the Raksasa tribe 3 years ago and the two sides lived in peace, people from the 9 continents still despised them. Boom! Finally, Zhangju reacted. He took a deep breath and asked Jack coldly, "You people from the Raksasa tribe are so bold. How could you break into the North Mono Royal City without receiving an invitation? Do you want to start a war?" Jack chuckled and said flatly, "You must be Zhangju, right? We heard about the Supreme Convention and we'd like to join in on the fun." Why are we called the intruders? Initially, Jack wanted to announce that he had already left the Raksasa tribe, but after careful consideration, he thought it would be good if they could place the blame on the Raksasa tribe for what they did that day. In the next second, his eyes fell on Daryl, gleaming with sheer coldness. "Sectmaster Darby, how have you been?" Daryl. "Because of him, I was scolded by Natalie in the Rock City and lost my dignity. I can't let that go so easily." Jack thought Jack's gaze made Daryl feel very upset. "Jack, what are you doing with all your people here?" Natalie had always been cautious and she would never let the Raksasa tribe do this. Something strange was going on. "What do you mean?" Jack's eyes flickered as he teased Daryl. Daryl, oh, Daryl, I'm afraid you still don't know that I've already left the Raksasa tribe. This time around, I invaded the North Mona Palace as instructed by the King of the Dead. Jack thought. Daryl frowned at Jack's reply. Zhangju first looked at Jack and everyone else before he finally set his eyes on Daryl. Daryl, why are you colluding with the Raksasa tribe? Zhangju shouted. What did you say? Daryl was puzzled. Don't pretend to be innocent. Who in the world doesn't know that you have a close relationship with the Raksasa queen? If you didn't tell them about the Supreme Conference, how did they end up here? Don't tell me that it's a mere coincidence. Daryl, you put on an honorable front but you are ambitious. You colluded with the Raksasa tribe to dominate the 9 continents, isn't that right? The peace agreement clearly stated that the Raksasa tribe cannot get involved in events in the 9 continents. Are you bringing them here to destroy all of us? Zhangju shouted, looking righteous as his eyes flashed viciously. He could see that Jack's group had nothing to do with Daryl, but in order to completely ruin Daryl, he said that on purpose. Zhangju, don't you slander me. Daryl's eyes were instantly blood red as he yelled. Zhangju is insidious. How could he fabricate such a silly story when this is such a critical situation? Daryl thought. Zhangju sneered. Jack looked up to the sky and laughed. He threw Daryl a weird smile. Sectmaster Darby, let's stop pretending since Zhangju's figured us out. Don't worry, after catching these people, I will speak well of you in front of the queen, and you'll surely enjoy your well-deserved benefits. Jack was not a fool. He could see at a glance that Zhangju was deliberately slandering Daryl. Daryl was also Jack's nemesis, so Jack was happy to see the bad blood between Zhangju and Daryl. Kabanata 2779. Daryl was furious that Jack helped Zhangju but did not know how to refute their statements. The entire square in front of the Infinite Hall became chaotic and everyone was talking. Daryl colluded with the Raksasa tribe. He even sullied Empress Chang'er. He's such a jerk in the world of cultivators. They wondered. Karen walked out quickly and pointed at Daryl. Daryl, you've embarrassed the 9 continents, you sullied Chang'er and was beaten up by my master. You hold grudges and secretly collude with the Raksasa tribe to destroy the Supreme Conference. Someone like you should die 100 times. She cursed. Many people at the scene pointed at Daryl, yelling at him with their burning righteous sentiments. What a scum! He's such a disgrace. I was really blind before to have respected him so much. He's simply a bastard to have colluded with the Raksasa tribe. There's no need to talk nonsense with someone like him. We need to get rid of him soon. Daryl ignored their comments but stared at Jack. How could Jack slander me so blatantly? That's so mean. However, even if he was the mayor of the Rock City, he had to report to Natalie. He would not dare to do this without Natalie's instruction. Could it be that Natalie was going to do something to the 9 continents? No, although Natalie has a cold and arrogant personality, she knows right from wrong and was not that kind of person. For a moment, Daryl contemplated the problem, but he could not figure it out. Zhangju took a deep breath and said coldly to Daryl, Daryl, you can't change anything even if you brought the Raksasa tribe. Today, neither you nor your party can leave. Zhangju raised his hand and waved. Take him down. Zhangju had consumed a lot of internal energy in the fierce battle with Daryl. Besides, he had never taken people like Jack seriously. Take Daryl down. Karen yelled as her body flashed and she rushed down to Daryl as a long sword appeared in her hands. For such a wicked person, there's no need to hesitate. Many people around responded and swarmed towards Daryl. Both Quincy and Zoe were anxious as they wanted to help, but there were way too many enemies blocking their path. They could not make it through at all. A bunch of fools. Daryl was angry to see Karen and the others rushing towards him. Obviously, the people from the Raksasa tribe came uninvited. Something strange must be going on, but those people would rather believe that he was colluding with the Raksasa tribe. Karen trembled before reaching Daryl, her eyebrows furrowed as she stood motionless all of a sudden with an ugly expression on her delicate face. It's strange. I was fine just now, but why is my body so limp now that I can't even muster any strength, she wondered. Moreover, she felt that she had no way of displaying her internal energy. It seemed that there was a strange force that suppressed her energy field. She must be poisoned. Karen felt that she was struggling to stand still. She was struggling to stand still. The expressions of the people around her also changed. Like Karen, they felt their internal energy was being suppressed, which was very strange. How could this be? I didn't even know when I was poisoned, Karen wondered, Kabanata 2800. The next second, Karen and many others focused their eyes on Jack. A strange black mist appeared around them when Jack's group first made an appearance that must be related to the poison. Why are you all gawking at me? Jack asked with a smile on his face. Despicable and shameless. You guys poisoned us secretly because you can't beat us. The Raksasa people call us cunning, but you aren't any better. Karen bit her lip and said fiercely. Jack looked up to the sky and laughed as he was not at all angry. Whatever, you're right that I poisoned you all, so what can you do with me? Jack was conceited. The poison was specially given to him by the King of the Dead before Jack set off. It was called the Devil's Tear and no one in the 9 continents had the antidote. That was why Jack was so calm. Daryl frowned when he felt a sense of numbness building in his body. The feeling was strange and completely different from any poison he had previously suffered. What a terrible poison. Where did Jack get this? Daryl calmed himself down and constantly urged his internal energy to resist the poison spreading in his body. He was about to break through and reach the level of godly realm, so he had no problem handling the poison for the time being. At the same time, Zhangju, who was not far away, was also urging his internal energy to dispel the poison like Daryl. Daryl took a deep breath and said coldly at Jack, Jack, hurry up and hand over the antidote. No matter what your intention is to bring your people here, I advise you to repent before the situation worsens. To Jack looked cunning, he smiled and shook his head. Sectmaster Darby, you gave me this poison. Why are you telling me to hand over the antidote? On top of that, our relationship has been exposed. I advise you to stop the act. Jack was still wearing the same cunning look on his face. Since he had already slandered Daryl, he might as well carry it on until the end. Anyway, he was separated from the Raksasa tribe and he need not be afraid of Natalie. Daryl was shocked and angry. Jade is sinister and cunning. He's no inferior to Zhangju at all. He even blamed the poison on me, Daryl thought. All the eyes were instantly gathered on Daryl. Daryl, are you really working with the Raksasa tribe? Parker asked as she bit her lips tightly in anguish and looked at Daryl with mixed feelings. At the same time, Quincy, Andy and the others also scowled at Daryl. They had also urged their internal energy to dispel the poison, but they were not powerful enough to carry on any longer. Daryl shook his head and said, it's obvious that he is trying to defame me. Don't believe him. I've always been an upright person. Why would I collude with someone from the Raksasa tribe? Parker, Andy and the others exchanged looks. They were relieved that it was not Daryl who did the evil. No matter what the situation is, the most important thing now is for us to leave here first. Quincy looked around and was very firm. Her face suddenly changed after finishing the last word. She felt that she was trying her best to mobilize her internal energy, but she failed in the end. Her energy field was attacked by the poison, and she could not display any internal energy at all. At the same time, her body felt limp. Parker and the others' expressions also changed and their bodies trembled violently. The poison is so strong. I can't stop it. Me too with that. Everyone slumped to the ground one after the other, completely defenseless. For a time, apart from Jack and others, Daryl and Zhangju were the only ones who could stand. Zhangju, like Daryl, had profound internal energy, and he could temporarily block the poisonous invasion, but even so, the situation was not looking optimistic.